Yours are dead in my microphone. Talk amongst yourselves. They couldn't stay for it because they had to go elsewhere to visit their mother in another state. But they said, I know you're going to have a good turnout. Unlike some other major cities, people in Chicago come out spite of it. 100%. 100%. I was like, a little rain's not going to keep Chicagoans away. All right. We want to begin, as we always do, with our land and labor acknowledgments. Seated atop a continental divide, the Chicago region is located at the intersection of several great waterways and fertile soil, which created a destination trading post and a healing site for the First Nations indigenous tribes. Chicago, is the traditional homelands of the Winnebago, Ho-Chunk, Otoe, Missouri, Iowa's Menominee, Mesquite, Sauk, Miami, Wea, Piankashaw, Kickapoo, Illinois Confederacy, Ojibwa, Daba, and Potawatomi peoples. These and other tribal nations have been and continue to be stewards of these lands and call them home. The environmental destruction of Anahuac, Turtle Island, in order for white European colonizers to create an industrialized North American United States, has come at the violent expense of indigenous people. We acknowledge that the formation of these North American United States was brought about through the forced, uncompensated labor of enslaved Black people and Asian immigrants. We acknowledge that Black people's rich contributions to North America have been widely ignored and erased. We further acknowledge that the racism that fostered and encouraged these attitudes normalized the marginalization and oppression of generations of Black people, indigenous people, and people of color. This is the same racism that reverberates today. The Chicago Poetry Center acknowledges the land we currently occupy in Chicago, all our ancestors who came before us, and the living descendants who envision and shape our future. We honor those who came before and those who continue to live on this land as we hold this shared space for art and expression. We want to thank Haymarket House, our home base, for allowing us to hold tonight's event here, and also to thank our beverage sponsors, Revolution Brewing and Luna Bay. Yes, I got that. As well as Nico's Italian Ice. So right after the reading tonight. Yes, okay. So immediately following the reading, there will be Nico's Italian Ice available in the kitchen. You just go past the restaurant. I know! We love it. Okay. Great. So those things for now. At the Chicago Poetry Center, our mission is to connect people in poetry, equitably engage poets with communities, and foster creative literacy in the city and beyond. We envision and work to create a fair and world rooted in artistic expression, human connection, and boundless imagination. In that vein, I am thrilled to pass the mic over to our Executive Director, B. Metzger-Sampson.
We do sometimes have conversations where I'll be like, none of those microphones work for anyone. Marty will be like, what are you talking about? They work perfectly. Because we have about a foot between us. Thank you, Marty. And thank you all so much for gathering with us today. This marks the close of a year of 50th anniversary celebration. Founded in response to literary censorship trials in the mid-20th century. The organization celebrates its 50th in a year with the greatest number of book bannings the U.S. has ever seen. Everything that made this work critical in 1974 and 75 is more important in 2025. We need art. We need inclusive open spaces where artists and thinkers can exchange ideas freely. We need protest. We need queer-run spaces. We need inclusive, accessible environments. We need artists. And if we want to ensure there are artists, we need to pay them. CBC is proud to do that. Some of you know all too well that CPC almost didn't make it to 50. Like many of us, age 37 was a rough year for the organization. Recessions, transitions, long story short, the organization almost closed, but a few board members who couldn't bear the thought of losing what this place is and does, rather impractically. It's true. That year, the organization had no staff and no money. This year, the organization finds itself on sturdy financial footing, paying more poets than ever, with an exceptional and each member of that staff have been with the organization for a wonderfully long tenure individually. So a huge thank you and congrats to our team. Marty, Helene, and Rina, thank you. Esther, Sam, Kate, and Claire, thank you for all of your support. And I feel like our de facto member, Chris, is back. For years. So that was where we were with our staff. That year, the organization had to pause its programs in Chicago Public Schools. 80 classrooms and 2,500 students with weekly programming. Program served another 10,000 students in the Chicago metro area, and 23 exceptional Chicago-based poet educators infused creativity into students' days as poets in residence. Thank you to Michelle, Musu, Alex, Larry, Teresa, Ola, Floor, Chastity, Josie, Ayla, Maya, Madison, Russell, Leslie, Tim, Kai, Luis, Christy, Maida, Smith, and Joy. That year that we almost closed, there were 3 board members. They helped me grow this place into the next phase of the board. The board with which we were able to both rebuild and build a new CPC ready to respond to the challenges and needs of the moment. Thank you to our former board members who helped us do that. In the room today are Henry, Maria, Ivy, Paula, and Elizabeth. And are there any other former board members that I missed? Round of applause. We now ourselves with a robust 22-person board. We expanded our bylaws because we had so many talented people. And this board is ready to tackle a dazzling array of organizational priorities. CPC has the best board around, and I am so grateful to each of you, past and present, for getting us to this day. Shout out to our current board, Kevin, Nina, John, Clayton, Anna, Toby, Whitney, Ola, Sarah, Candace, Shivani, Noel, Tanner, Sean, Tim, Stephanie, Chris, Ashley, Kay, and Joy. I've said a lot of names so far, and I promise I am actually done with name lists now. Because this is what and who it takes to make something so thoughtful, so values-driven, so community-focused thrive. It takes all of those people named, so let's show them off a little bit. Yeah. Our 50th anniversary started with a retrospective exhibit and documentary at the Poetry Foundation. Big thanks to our colleagues. In addition to the education work I shared above and the 10,000 students supported this year, our 50th programs included a new series of online learning programs for poets alongside our ongoing reading series, both the Green and the Blue Hour, we like colors. Our Critical Conversations at Work anti-racism program launched free inclusion-centered DEI programming to the world on Inauguration Day, also the day DEI was canceled at the federal level. Yeah. This year, we continued our tradition of paid positions for teaching artists as voting members of our board. We continued our tradition of community-centered decision-making that has brought us into our own shared values and missions and the policies that uphold those. This year, we won Chicago Reader's Best Reading Series. This year, our team was featured in both the Lit 50 Hall of Fame and the Lit 50 list, 4 of us. This year, we were awarded the Poetry Foundation's first ever Sustainable Futures grant, putting us in a 3-year Co-12 exceptional organizations in Chicago and nationally. I love seeing our work celebrated and honored in the world, but what I love most is people who do this work and the values with which we do it. The world is full of threats right now. We get somewhere better by sticking together, by making community, by keeping each other safe as best we can, by living into those values every day. Our public programs are free, and Poet will never do work at CPC without getting honored for their time financially. We pay our readers, we pay our teaching artists, not just for class time, but prep and training too. ASL interpreters and food can be found at our public events. It's a financial investment in our values. And our donors and our grantors ensure our work continues to thrive in this manner. If you're able to donate or bid on our silent auction items today, we thank you for ensuring 50 years of this work ahead. I believe CPC can weather the current storm. What a storm it is. But part of why we're in a good position to do so is because of all of you. So thank you. 50th, we recreated an iconic photo of our founders from 1974. Not only did our current team and poets join us, but folks who worked with us over the past decades flew in to be a part of it. At our celebration, we had folks, former and current, join us from across the country. I love the way this organization holds its history in its actions and holds its people close. However, your relationship with the organization might change over time, audience, board, poet, staff, stay with us. You are enthusiastically welcome here at our ever bigger table. Now let's get to some awards. So I should say at this point, I would be passing the mic to our dear colleague, Helene. She is out sick today, so she would be happy. When making the documentary, I learned that CPC used to have an award for teaching artists named for Chicago's patron saint of poetry, Ellen Brooks. I asked Nora Brooks, her daughter, if we had her permission to revive this award, and she gave us an enthusiastic yes. The Brooks Award is intended to honor exceptional teaching among Chicago poetry and poets in residence, and comes with a $1,000 award. Fun fact, our longest teaching poet in residence, Larry Dean, was a recipient of this award in its first year, and we are grateful that he is still bringing students across Chicago. I am so pleased to introduce this year's winners of the Gwendolyn Brooks Award for Excellence in Teaching. I will give them each a proper introduction, but for a round of applause for our trio, Timothy David Ray. I will give each of them a proper individual introduction after this, but a few things they share in common. They are the best of the best when it comes to teaching poetry, and their job is not in the easiest setting. They have a special effect on others that makes them want to create, and I feel absurdly, wildly privileged that I get to work alongside them. On to our first poet. Timothy David Ray is the first poet in residence I ever hired. And I love that every time this comes up, he reminds me that he got the call while on a roller coaster. Follow me back up. On the brand. Before I get to his teaching, I have to note that Tim is a poet in residence board member, the chair of our anti-racism committee, co-creator of Poetry at the Green, and a facilitator of critical conversations, and that is just a short list of the things he does. Tim is a true master teacher whose deep love of the art exudes out of every lesson. Tim understands that the first goal for our students is freedom. Freedom to step away from the exactitudes of a K-12 school day, to be playful, curious, to explore without knowing where one might land, to simply start your hand across the paper and exist in the act of discovery of what emerges. Tim is so good at this work that when a teacher tells him, actually, we only have 20 minutes today, 30 students emerge 20 minutes later with glorious, glowing poems that I could not be more lucky to have you as a friend and colleague. Please join me in congratulating Timothy David. It's all yours.
Wow. I prepared some remarks, I would say. Good evening, everyone.
Good
evening.
Writers are walkers, at least I am and was. Think of the poet Wordsworth making great strides across the rainy English countryside with his sister Dorothy, journal in one hand, 2 steps behind it, transcribing every word, and you begin to get the picture. And I think that's how I bumped into poetry at a very young age. I wandered, and I wondered. As Langston Hughes titled the second portion of his autobiography. I allowed myself, and I had great teachers, and I think that must have inspired me in 7th grade to commit to a life in poetry. Oh, be very assured, I did not want to do it. Even then, there was something romantic about the idea, but something so scary too. Perhaps that was your Lord. But a message was downloaded to me, but I didn't want to do it. Yet I still wandered. In the 1980s, Gwendolyn Brooks came to my cornfield-lined hometown of DeKalb, Illinois, and I wandered over to a shop at the nearby university campus, attended by a crowd of college students. She took note of me with kindness. She signed a few books, reviewed my poem, and gave me her phone number so I could call her anytime. I never called. My life regrets. Too shy at 13, but her act showed me that there's grace in working students, the curious, the younger generations. I went through my parents' house before they sold it in their old age, and to my surprise, took note of all the poetry I had given them as gifts, now framed on the walls like the mirrors at Versailles. Wandered towards an Indiana University during my undergrad, where I would steal away on the graduate side of the iconic limestone library and crouch down to read queer poetry in secret among the cages and cages of books. When my poetry teacher, Yusuf Komanyaka, asked what my plans for my poetry were, I nearly let him out of his own office and wandered off saying, I'm not going into poetry, but thanks for the compliment. I want to express my heartfelt thanks to the Chicago Poetry Center for giving me this award. Your recognition means more to me than words can adequately convey, and I'm truly honored to be amongst an incredible group of peers. The journey has not been a solitary one. I owe so much of the success to the people who have walked alongside me, family who have been my unwavering foundation, standing with me through the highs and lows of everything. Thanks for your love, patience, and endless support. I am indebted to guidance and belief in the vision of my friends, colleagues, and mentors who have inspired me and challenged and encouraged me. Each time I wander into a classroom to teach poetry, I'm reminded of the responsibility and privilege we have to push boundaries, create meaningful change, and contribute to a world that inspires and enlifts others. As I accept this award, I'm grateful for what has been accomplished and what comes ahead. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for this extraordinary honor. Thank you to the students, to libraries, old floors, and welcome Black writers to sit and read gay poems to themselves. To teachers who dare to explore through verse, and to all of you for the work that we all do. In closing, I would like to dig into my Hoosier, Indiana self and recite this poem that my grandmother, one of my first fans, gave me when she was alive. The Wander, Indiana slogan was a tourism campaign used in the 1980s to encourage both in-state and out-of-state visitors to explore Indiana. It aimed to showcase the state's diverse attractions, from its rolling terrain and small towns to its outdoor spaces like the Indiana Dunes. The campaign included billboards, brochures, merchandise, and a tourism hotline, and later expanded to television ads in neighboring states. Some thought Wander was a country, a large one, somewhere in central Indiana. Wander, Indiana, by Northstar. How did I come to be here? I suppose I was like other girls at first, just shy. I used to stand outside the practice room listening to Chopin on the piano with my eyes closed, imagining love. I was a wise man in the Christmas play. No lines to speak but the whole stage course, pretending to follow a light bulb star. I like to spin the globe in my homeroom after school and stop it with my finger. Then I grew up. Got glasses, read thick books. I saw the sights that all explorers see. When I began to travel, yet somehow the pictures in the books were always brighter. Smiling mermaids combing their yellow hair, the caption said. When I reached the shore and saw the mermaids sprawled upon the rocks, I saw how thin they were, how they shivered and tried to dry their wet tails with their hair. I heard rumors about Shangri-La, yes, most of them untrue. The palms sway and gentle unicorns crop the grass below the snow-capped, shadowy mountains. But people stop me on the broad avenues to ask me a question. Was I ever happy down there where the snow fell? If I said yes, they turned in shock. Almost angry, swept off their gauzy robes and walked away. That's when I crossed the iceberg sea to limbo and disembarked in the Grand Shuttleport. It looked so ordinary in town bars and rutted streets. Inside the rainy days, a sailor asked me to catch a glimpse of heaven through the fog. He said he had and shook his head, lifting his heavy stone. But it was on my short voyage to hell that I first heard of Wander, Indiana. I waited on the shore beside the shades. I had no right to passage on the ferry for the dead. And the shades joked me, mocking, annoyed. I was loveless, hopeless, but I solid enough to weight the buoyant wood of the deck, remind them of their losses. After the ferryman refused to take me, I pleaded with the deck, where should I go? Wander, yeah. Some voices hissed above the groan of oars and shrieks and moans, and so I drove across the great prairie, searching for the narrow road to Wander. The sky was blue, the rustling corn uncut. I passed the quarry and the water tower, drove into the county seat at twilight. It looked real. I knew the stranger slept soundly at the Byway Motel, then drove away, never suspecting the trick. The whole town, the whole enormous country is made up of drifting vapors, molecules combined, no one knows how to resemble shapes of houses, hardware stores, and people. None of us exist. We're clouds of matter driven by gusts of passion, lips dissolving. As we smile at you and give you directions.
wearing a shirt with a portrait of Gwendolyn Brooks. Knew I liked her anyway. The first time I observed one of Leslie's classrooms, the second graders showed up books to gift her. They had each individually picked out books they thought Leslie might like. At the next class, I observed all of the students had shown up with individual hand-created cards and drawings. There would be like a line of suitors, like 4 feet tall, young people, just waiting to like shower her with these gifts because of how much they loved what she was bringing them. At the next one, a student sang a song that she had made herself. And the classroom teacher came up to me candidly while the student was preparing for this surprise corner and shared with me that the student had stayed up all night to prepare for Leslie's visit. It's not just second graders. Leslie carries a capacity to look right at a person and make them feel deeply connected. Leslie's first year of teaching with us was 2019-2020, which meant that the year ended in asynchronous classrooms, with poets delivering video lessons to students at home. I would watch her videos in a time of total upended everything and feel a deep sense of being grounded. And these were made for second graders, you know. I was from them personally. And it was watching these videos that I started to sort of fantasize about the idea of like a Mr. Rogers-style show, but for poetry. And I will be eternally grateful to Leslie for agreeing to join me on the most wild adventure in which we both became executive producers and she became the titular star of Queen Z's poetic adventure. Everything magical about Queen Z is Leslie. She has not only connected with so many young people across Chicago, but in states across the US and in Italy and Colombia, which is where people are downloading Queen Z. We received an email from a school in Tuscany with a picture of a student corkboard in a classroom with cutout of Queen Z's face with like a big heart drawn around. So the fandom is worldwide at this point. Chicago, please join me in welcoming and congratulating Leslie.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Oh my God. All that exaggeration. That's so embarrassing. So, thank you. I feel, we are living in such a strange, often cruel, dangerous, dynamically changing moment right now. And I get to be here with this wonderfully energetic, loving group of people and receive an award for doing something that we don't get into it for awards.
That's right.
Since I joined Chicago Poetry Center in 2019 as a poet in residence, as a teaching artist, I've watched this organization grow, bloom, blossom, take chances. No 2 years are the same. It's really awesome. I love the energy, I love the risk-taking, I love the ideas in action that Chicago Poetry Center represents in making sure that Chicago, all over, young, old, everywhere, gets as many poetry nutrients and vitamins as possible. Loving nutrients and vitamins, that is. So thank you very much for this honor. I tried to be like Tim and do some prepared remarks, but it was really getting out of hand. I had to remind myself I wasn't receiving a Grammy or something. Like I said, we don't do this for awards and accolades. I think many of us do it because we all had, a moment, a time in which poetry came to us. Poetry made us respond. And we want to do that for young people. We want to ignite that spark. We want to bring young people out. We want to educate their imagination. We want to remind them to be conscious, be aware of themselves and the world, and to find their voices, to have fun, to be serious, to be sensitive, to be creative. I'm pausing because I can't remember all the little things that I said I was going to say. Maybe they'll come back to me. But thank you very much for this honor. It's pretty amazing, and I'm very appreciative. I did want to say I have received many gifts and things from students, but I'm not trying to get them to love me, but I like that, don't get me wrong. But I'm hoping, I think of myself, when I first was a teaching artist in Detroit, that's where I'm from, and I mostly with teenagers, and I also worked with young groups, but mostly teenagers, then I was younger. And, but now that I've been primarily working with 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, and some 5th, I think of myself as like the poetry starter kit. Icebreaker. I'm hoping that a student who does a residency with me, thereafter, when they hear the word poetry, they'll say, okay, go along for this ride, I'll go along for this adventure instead of shutting down. So that's always my hope. All right, I was going to set my timer to make sure that I gave them my time. Anyway, so the poems that I'm going to read today, they're all, please indulge me, they're all pre-smartphone, pre-social media poems. They're dedicated to, yes. They're dedicated to students. I was trying to think of a way to bring ancestors into this space, and unfortunately, I had a student who I met when he was 15. His name was Shywan Taylor in Detroit. Beautiful young person, very creative, brilliant in many ways. He actually wrote a poem. Might be one of the first students to write a poem for me. It was called Words on Hands, and it was published in the book Teenage Boys Writing. Very, I would say that was an honor, for me. So this poem that I wrote in memory of Shywan Taylor is called Lament for Fallen Wonderfuls. Hard falling like trees, soft falling like dust, rushing falls, wonder falls. Screaming, falling, wonder falls. Quaking into wide and trapping walls. Gasping, screaming, fireballs. Drowned forever, wonder falls. Bibles burning, doubtful churning. From under rubble, spirit crawls. And nappy caterwauls. Throwing looping curveballs. In an infinite and dewy sky, full of twinkling for the eye. All my heroes, forgotten charming, listed in life's undergarments. Sweet blues music, trickster catcalls, shower compassion's waterfalls, dampening my soul forever. Wonderfalls. Brigade of torn up songs. Accusatory eyes lynch urban girls and boys if they are too raw jitty and buttercream. Stacking tall, saucy sandwich filled with junky grammar and ghetto lettuce. Oh, boo, bet your crew gonna fix this. Shanique, Devante, Diamond, and Jawan. All kids kick like pebbles to the curb. It be their one eyes like sequins in this terrible night of curse word splendor and broken bell letters scrolling beneath street lamps of neon liquor lightning. Here goes the bootleg remix of hair-splitting virtuosity in the art of verb-spitting verbosity, causing a social atrocity at massive cardiac velocity. A mouth of sidewalk dew stew, dipped in blues and black cherry boogaloo. Blazing this herb-buttered turntable, you might be inclined to house the language too. Ill chilling with cognac instead of kegs, swervy, curvy, or straight as pegs. In my city of forgotten dread, children rock the mic between their legs. Oh, people.
For adults. Again, for my mom, just the love support that you've always given me, and I just appreciate, and I'm just so full of gratitude for Helene Achanzar, our Director of Programs, also to B. Mester Sampson, our Executive Director, and just the broader CPC community, which consists of the staff, the team members, interns, board members, other poets in residence. It's just so amazing to be a part of a wonderful community and to share each other's voices and work that always motivates and inspires me every day. And whether we have worked together on committees, poetry at the Green 320, at Poetry Out Loud, or just hung out and had a conversation after our residencies, I'm just so thankful to just have people that I can learn from, and hopefully they can learn something from me as well. And of course, I want to thank the teachers in every classroom I work in who are dedicated, who sometimes even write poetry alongside us in the classroom and says, oh, I want to share too. So I'm really grateful to them. And of course, my students, which this award was possible with their creativity, their imagination, and their sense of humor that always astounds me over the years. And whether we're writing poetry about music, art, K-dramas, or Marvel movies, just seeing their personality shine through their work is just a gift that it's just so amazing to keep receiving every year in my residencies. And I just want to thank everyone who's been a part of this journey for me. And everyone deserves a place to belong so you can grow and thrive. And I'm truly blessed to be part of an organization and community that led me to have these wonderful opportunities to enhance my skills as a teaching artist, and a poet, and it just means the world to me. Thank you so much, CPC. I actually chose 3 poems to read, and the first one I wrote is an elegy for Black Barbie. So for those who are not familiar, an elegy is a reflection, and it's about mourning loss. And for me, this was like a sense of identity. Elegy for Black Barbie. You were the villain at tea parties, attacking the blonde society Barbies with pale skin like fragile porcelain and eyes in a bleaking blue sky. You were dark as coffee, an uninvited stain on the white rug I played on. I wanted to love you, being a gift from Grandma, but you came without the glamorous accessories of gowns and pointed shoes. Just an orange dress that I was reluctant to peel from your body. Nameless, I placed you in solitary confinement inside the toy chest, guarded by stuffed bears. Your red-lipped smile haunted me as I slept. You knew all my secrets. The jagged scars drew your face with a crayon, my own cracked reflection. At 7, I wished parts of myself were replaceable. Skin, eyes, and hair. Then my body be manufactured into a product of beauty. Yet it seemed like you and I were destined to be packaged imitations of high-quality dolls. The basement eventually became your final resting place, a mausoleum for all things used and born. I'm sorry it took 20 years for me to mourn you and the small girl I buried. All right, so this one's a little bit funny, well, dark, funny. It actually was inspired by a poem I wrote at one of our board members' birthday parties, Shabani, if you're in the back. We, with a group of her friends and other poets, we're supposed to write trash poems, like horrible poems, and get an award later, and I lost because the judges said that they enjoyed my poem and it didn't so I actually continued. I know it's great. I actually continued writing it, and it's called Haiku of My Trauma from My Millennial Childhood Through Animation. And if there's millennials out there, you'll recognize some of these people. Lisa Simpson drinks from an amusement park swamp. Lizards think she's mean. Garfield the cat hides his depression by eating tons of lasagna. Mufasa is dead. Simba loses a father. Scar's beast. Peter Pan likes to lure kids away from their homes. Cook knew he was trash. Ariel gives up her voice to get some cute legs. Is Eric worth it? DW breaks. Arthur's most prized model plane. She deserves that punch. Scooby-Doo can solve crimes, but not his addiction to those Scooby snacks. A yellow sponge in square pants finds happiness as a low-paid fried Angelica's doll, Cynthia, needs therapy and a makeover. Is a Pokeball a home or a tiny prison for a Pokemon? When puberty hits, Daria's bleak view of life will make total sense. This is my last poem, which which is actually inspired by the self-portrait poem that was just the lesson that was mentioned earlier. And usually our students frames, they can write their poems inside the frames and also draw images of themselves. So one day in class, I thought about the monarch butterfly, and I kind of wrote the poem based on that lesson of that image. And it's called Self-Portrait of My Reincarnation as a Monarch Butterfly. It's hereditary, this yearning for flight. I was a tiny pearl egg, my parents' only progeny hatched in spring. As a very hungry caterpillar, I ate through the pages of my own story. When I was 5, my mother's thyroid gland, a winged creature of follicles and tubes, had once rested in her throat until doctors lured it with radiation to capture it. At 26, my own ultrasound revealed slightly scarred wings. When I swallowed, I could feel it fluttering to the surface as if trying to escape the whistles of my mouth. I dream of scientists tracking my soul's migration. Finally, taking that much-needed vacation, I will leave behind the cold winters of the Midwest, the eternal summers of Mexico. I would get drunk on the nectar of milkweeds, make love in midair, and scatter ratios of myself like stardust. One moment I'm a pale green wiggly thing, and the next I disappear into myself and emerge as a fiery goddess. They'll find me once again, worshiping the sun on the branches of an oil fir, clinging like ripe orange fruit. I would be plucked from my death in a cased-in glass. My life framed in a museum as a young girl stares at the black wines of uncharted destinies. I will be immortal.
Wow.
Thank you.
One more round of applause for our incredible teaching. Holy smokes. Holy smokes, holy smokes. If you need to pee or grab a drink, do it while I talk. Espada's coming. And I talked for a couple minutes to, just like a minute in between, so we have a little break. So you've heard our mission statement, you've heard our vision statement. We have a belief statement, which is that the Chicago Poetry Center, we believe that poetry illuminates our individual and shared humanity, fueling thriving lives and healthy communities. I think you've heard that in everything that our award recipients spoke about tonight. I'm going to take just a second to talk about our life programs, because that's another way that we live into that belief. Our literary life programming includes this annual event, the monthly Blue Hour series, which happens right here, the third Wednesday of every month, right here at Haymarket House. It includes a generative writing workshop, a short lottery-style open mic like we did tonight, and 2 incredible featured poets. We kick off the new season September 21st with Marianne Chan and Megan Plunkett. So sign up for the mailing list if you're not already on it. We also have our Poetry Green at 3:20 that happens every Monday through September with an open and featured reader outdoors in the West Loop. Check that out. Yes, and other performance partnerships and organizations around the city. Okay. I'm not going to talk long, and I'm not going to cry. These are 2 things that are not going to happen.
Right.
Our feature for tonight is Martín Espada. Make noise. Those of you who come to Blue Hour or watch it on the live stream, let's say hi. Hello, people on the live stream. Hi, we love you. Thank you for watching. Know that my intros tend to be this spontaneous. And this one, and then I'll read the real live bio, I promise. I don't have to tell you what the world is like right now. I don't have to tell you what the country is like right now. I don't have to tell you what the city is like right now, but a thing that I want to say out loud is that there's urgency, and then there's capital letters urgency. There's poems, and there are capital letter poems. And there are poets, and then there are capital letter poets. And these capital letter poets to me are poets who disallow us from turning away, who hold our feet to the fire until we realize that we're fire, and then make us fall with it, that burning. And when I think of Martín Espada, when I think of this poet, his work in the world, what the word that comes to mind for me is necessary, right? There are poems I love, and there are poems I need, and these are poems that I need, and I love at the same time. These are poems that lead us to liberation by challenging us. I was going to say there's no easy Martín poem, but I don't know. There's a one about a plunger to a forehead, every once in a while there's a poem that's sort of a gimme, right? That somehow lets us pretend that there's not something devastating underneath it that also puts us back there. These are poems that together I'm more able to do the work that I need to do in the world. And I think all of us are more able to do the work we need to do in the world. I learn something every time I read one of these poems, and I learn something extra every time I hear one of these poems. So I'm really incredibly excited for you all to receive this oral lineage, to receive this language aloud. So I'm going to stop saying things because I really want you to hear poems so much. So please make all the noise in the world for Martín Espada. To acknowledge the ways of the world so understands the incredible necessity of this poet. Martín has published more than 20 books as a poet, editor, essayist, and translator. His latest book of poetry, Jailbreak of Sorrows, get it? It's in the back. Was published with Knopf in 2025. His previous book, Floaters, also get that, it's in the back. The National Book Award for Poetry and a Massachusetts Book Award. His poetry collections from WW Norton include Vivas to Those Who Have Failed, The Trouble Ball, The Republic of Poetry, Alabanza, and Imagine the Angels of Bread. I don't think they're all in the back, but get them if you don't already have them. He is the editor of Saves Us, Poems of Empathy and Outrage in the Age of Trump 2019, Espada has received the Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize, the Shelley Memorial Award, the Academy of American Poets Fellowship, the Penn Revision Fellowship, a Letras Gloriosas Fellowship, and the Guggenheim Fellowship. The title of his collection poem, Alabanza, about 9/11, has been widely anthologized and informed. His book of which also can't read aloud about crying and teach and teach and teach and teach. His book of essays and poems about his disciple was banned in Tucson as part of the Mexican American Studies program, outlawed by the state of Arizona. Even in the current moment, a former tenant lawyer, Espada is a professor of English at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. Now you can cheer one another.
congratulate the winners of the Gwendolyn Brooks Award. I will be reading mostly from my new book, Jailbreak Sparrow. And that will be followed by the book signing and voting. And speaking of books, book bans are back. A couple of years ago, there was a children's book about Roberto Clemente that was banned and then unbanned in Florida, of course. So here is a Clemente story and a coming-of-age story too. For those of you who may not know, Puerto Rican Baseball Hall of Famer Roberto Clemente died on New Year's Eve in '72. Delivering earthquake supplies to Nicaragua. I was 15 years old, and we had just left my Brooklyn birthplace for Valley Stream, Long Island, in the suburbs, and we were the only Puerto Rican family in town. That sets the stage for this poem. Big Bird died for your sins. Barry was 6'6", 15 like me, loading layups and hook shots over our heads through the hoop in my driveway. We called him Big Bird for dwarfing us, for his slappy feet, for the mouth that hung a grin at all our stories. We called him Big Bird because he yelled, "Foul!" every time anyone bumped him under the basket, as if we lived on Sesame Street. I liked Big Bird, his white boy afro. He never called me a greasy-haired spick under the hoop in my own driveway like Frankie, the clown on the block. On New Year's Eve, Roberto himself set foot on the prop plane at the airport in Puerto Rico, my father's island. Boxes for Nicaragua stacked up after the earthquake, knowing the dictator's Guardia Nacional would crack open the crates, greedy as a pillaging army. If he did not own them. The Deep Sea 7, engine like a smoker's heart, 4,000 pounds overweight, sputtered 100 feet above the trees, then spiraled into the sea. On a night when the moon deserted the sky, the keeper of a lighthouse being drunk. A crowd kept vigil on the beach. His compañero, the catcher, dove and dove again between the fins that sliced the waves, till the propeller's twisted hand rose from the sea. But never the body, never the ball player, never Clemente, never. My father told me, Roberto Clemente. I could swear my father's eyes were red. I had never seen my father cry. This must be hay fever in winter. Mother saw him cry once, watching the funeral of JFK on television, the black riderless horse and the empty boots and the stirrups for the fall. Later, the day after, ball writers voted Clemente into the Hall of Fame as the boys under the hoop toweled off and scooped up Cokes from a cooler. I said, when my father Clemente died, there were tears in his eyes. No one said anything, not even Frankie the clown. Big Bird stopped grinning. Big Bird was thinking. And his voice was gone when he finally said, they only did that because he was Puerto Rican. They only did that because he was black. There was once an episode on Sesame Street where Luisa Maria taught Big Bird about the meaning of death, how we all die one day, and his yellow head drooped heavy as a sunflower. I feel sad. I could have rolled the numbers out like the dice in my Stratomatic baseball board game. 317 lifetime average, 414 in the 1971 series, 3,000 hits, 12 gold gloves, the only walk-off inside Park Grand Slam in baseball history. I could have called the spirit of a dead ball player to flood the screens in their heads with a leap and stab of the ball against the wall in right field and save the no-hitter. Bark at the ball was back and fractured a pitcher's leg. I said nothing. I never said anything, even when Frankie would croon his favorite song in my face, Speka Spoka. The other boys would bathe in it. The next game began. I guarded Big Bird. I stomped on his slappy feet. My elbows into his rib cage, ran shoulder after shoulder into his back, shots by jamming the ball into his chest. I knew nothing of karate, but kicked the air every time I yanked the rebound away. Foul! Yelled Bird like a song in a jukebox nobody wanted to hear. Foul! This was my hoop, so I couldn't foul out. I wanted to see Big Bird cry like I saw my father cry. Big Bird sniffed. No song sneezed. He squinted hard, but we all knew. That day, Big Bird died for the sins of fathers accursed with the dark ball players on TV in the living room where their sons could hear it all. I had a vision of Big Bird rising above the palm trees, igniting in the air like a feathery piñata, too close to the spark of a cigarette, crashing into the sea, feasting on yellow feathers, Luis and Maria on Sesame Street, explaining the meaning of a puppet's death as the fiction. So, when we look, what do we see? When we look, what do we see? Some people look at tattoos and see names. Some look at Latinos and see invasion. My father, Francisco Ruiz Espada, was a community organizer and a documentary photographer. He was the creator of the Puerto Rican Diaspora Documentary Project, a photo documentary of Puerto Rican migration. Photographs of migrants by a migrant. He taught me how to look and how to see. This poem is called Look at This. My father spoke. Look at this, he said to me. We were walking through an alley from somewhere to somewhere else in Brooklyn. In front of us, a man with white hair and white beard reached into a dumpster, plucked out a bag of potato chips, stuffed his arm up to elbow in the bag, let it flutter to the pavement at his feet, and showed ahead. Look at this, my father said again. Sometimes he would repeat himself. He walked up behind the white-haired man, called, "Good morning, sir." So the other man wheeled around to see us, shook his hand, and left a $20 bill in the handshake, all without slowing down. We never spoke of it again. The day we left Brooklyn, he drove away so fast he left the stack of his 78s in the closet of the apartment in the projects. Look at this was all he said and all he had to say. Look. So I had no choice but to be a lawyer. Went to Northeastern University Law School in Boston, and I became a tenant lawyer with Su Clínica Legal. Clínica Legal was a legal services program for low-income Spanish-speaking tenants in Chelsea. Massachusetts, right across the Tobin Bridge from Boston. Our clients came from Puerto Rico, from the DR, and from somewhere new, from Central America, from El Salvador, from what refugees fleeing Reagan's wars, and of course, undocumented. Here's a poem from this. The city wears coat to bed. The white army of winter spreads across the city. Boilers and radiators die in their sleep, their skin cold to the touch in the morning. The city wears a coat to bed. The city watches the wraith of breath rise in the kitchen. On Friday afternoons, the judges slip off their black robes and drive home. There is no light in the windows of the courthouse. There is no one to read the affidavit or sign the injunction to shove into the land's hand so that heat courses through the heart of the boiler and the looping hard veins of the radiator again. No one to hear the tenth story translated, her sons and daughters shivering in their on the mattress, snot on their sleeves. The judges and the landlord home or stopping in a bar on the way home, she tells me instead. The lawyer who speaks Spanish and explains in Spanish why there will be no heat this weekend, why there is no one at the courthouse to listen, and still she pours her story into my ears to the well to bursting. I walk her to the way of the office. The secretary is in the bathroom. The office space heater in the corner. Suddenly, I am steering the tenant out the door, the space heater in her arms. As she says, gracias, over and over, and I say, okay, okay. Knowing the secretary would yell my name louder than the time a drunk with a lightning scar on his belly charged through the door, naked, but for his socks and a Salvation Army blanket. The secretary would not miss the office space heater till Monday. I am the hero of the story. Riding the bus home across the bridge. Till I remember the words I should have said about the glowing coils too close to the mattress. How every week another fire rolls the smoldering wraith of winter to the bedroom as sons in their sleep. How every week EMTs tuck white sheets over bodies dead as the landlord's boiler. I dream with eyes open of windows, the color space heaters, and the coils of mattresses glowing in every window. We got federal funds from the Legal Services Corporation. Now, Reagan hated legal services from his time as governor of California, so he zero-funded Legal Services Corporation and even put his own people on the Legal Services Corporation board. Does any of this sound familiar? Well, Congress put less and less and less back in the budget. We at Legal Services would go hand in hand to the private bar, the big law firms in Boston, looking for donations. And that's where this next poem comes from. If you're reading from the book, by the way, it's on page 42 of your hymnal. Your card is the king of rats. We were the lawyers from legal aid, ready to state our case at the lunch luncheon of the Bar Association, the White Shoe offers the last of the Boston Brahmins. I would peek in the windows of their townhouses in Lewisburg Square to glimpse the paintings on the walls, ancestors stiff in oils. Back at the office, refugees from the land of death squads waited for us and apologized, Spanish fingering eviction notices in hieroglyphics. I looped my pre-looped tie around my neck and walked into lunch with J. Rose, the street lawyer I wanted to be, who bewildered landlords like a chess grandmaster stood behind spectacles at the city park games of boyhood. We were there to ask for donations, phones, fax machines, reams of paper, desks and chairs to speak the tongue of please and thank you. A man stood up to introduce me. He wore a pocket handkerchief. He spoke the tongue of Quincy Adams, the ancestor, Roosevelt, the distant cousin, grinning when he said, I would like to introduce Martín. When I say Martín, I think Martini. That makes it easier for me to remember. I waited for the inebriate chuckles to fade. I spoke of rats sniffing the milk on an infant's mouth, roaches camouflaged in the brand like raisins with legs, ancient plumbing flooding the floors with the wrath of an ancient god. Dessert, circle table, pastry swans lighting on plates around the white cloth, an homage to their cousins on the pond at the public garden. I saw the spoons dig into the crust of swans, swing out the cherry filling. I saw the lawyers floating away from me in a reverie of decapitated swans. I had a law degree. I passed the bar my first time. Yeah. Now, I was a magician hired for a birthday party. Boys and girls infatuated with the red inner dessert jiggling on their spoons. I dealt my magician's deck of cards. Polaroids of rats in glue traps, roaches fatter and juicier than any raisin in a cereal box, the fountain of a toilet brimming of brown soup, snapshots we passed out to judges for injunctions to bless the landlord. How I wanted to call out and amaze all the lawyers at lunch. Is your card the king of rats? Is your card the queen of roaches? Is your card the ace of excrement? Spoons hung in the air. I saw the muscles in their jaws grind to a stop, like the wheels of trains pulling into the station. Some scrutinized hand of Polaroids, aristocrats anticipating recitation of the details of a revolutionary tribunal. Some turned their hands face down, blackjack players praying for better cards. Some passed, never looking at the king of rats or the queen of roaches, as if to say, I left no fingerprints on the white door of those who fled that place. Amid the swans, half-eaten, hearts open like valentines on the tablecloth. J. Rose, the street lawyer I wanted to be, hypnotist landlords, stood up before the lawyers at the luncheon and said, we need donations, phones, fax machines, reams of paper, desks and chairs. Please and thank you. He got it all. So, I mentioned my I miss her. She is a writer and a teacher. She taught urban for many years. She teaches developmental English at a community college in Patterson, New Jersey, 4 days a week, and on her day off, she would volunteer to teach adult literacy at a rehab center in Patterson. She's the tutor in this poem. It's a tribute to the teachers and the learners and the principle of education under attack today.
Yes.
Gonzo. Everybody knew Gonzo. His cigarettes and cologne. His gold crucifix. The white t-shirt he wore at every meeting. They leaned closer to listen whenever he spoke in the circle at the rehab center, some with eyes shut, seeing his confessions of addictions, demons, varieties, angels at war. No one knew Gonzo signed his name with an X. The tutor at the rehab center held up flashcards and sounded out the letters. A, B, C. There was no alphabet song in Gonzo's head, no teacher at the blackboard. He said the letters one by one. At the letter S, he stopped. The tutor made Gonzo's nose long, not as long as the nose of the Muppet with the same name. S, she said again. Gonzo had no front teeth, no place for his tongue to. He puffed and sprayed, a man unable to navigate the river of his own name, Gonzales. He hid his face in his hands, on lettered cards in his hand, as if the tutor could not see him now. A sob surged through him, a beast chained to the rock of his ribs for 50 years, since the days the roosters woke him up for school in Puerto Rico. He wiped his face clean. Gonzo was clean. Clean fingernails, clean shaven, clean white. The tutor waited, thinking, he doesn't know his letters, but he knows every street in Patterson by name. She squeezed Gonzo to response, then again, till his eyes met hers. She held up the next flashcard. She said, say T. I've been writing songs, Lauren, in the voices of weird creatures. So there is some relief. Here it is. This is a prime example of the subgenre. It's a poem in the voice of a dish of plátanos maduros. That's fried plantains for the uninitiated. And it's a if you care about that sort of thing. Love song about plátanos maduros. No, this is not a song for us. Ripe plantains sliced and fried in a pan. This is a song for you. A song in praise of your mouth and tongue. A song anticipating your anticipation of the flight into our yellow hearts. a song to celebrate the delirium of the first kiss from you. No, this is not a song for us, the alchemy of the tough skin, green, then yellow, then black. This is a song for you, a song in praise of your nose breathing us in, a song of your eyes as they close to contemplate this offering, more tempting than the wafer in church. No. This is not a song for us, flying from islands where the peasant stain of a Platono says, "This is who I am." This song for you, a song in praise of your hands, lifting us slowly on the fork, as if to savor of the delicacy of aristocrats, a song of delight in your delight. We live to be useful, and useful we will be, warming your belly as you crave one more. We will die heroes. We will die happy on your lips. So, we're looking for a food poem to teach your students. Feel free to Xerox. Well, I'm going to read 2 more poems. I'm going to close with 2 poems about the island of Puerto Rico. I want to remind everybody that sellers have been sitting patiently and they should be rewarded. And I'm not saying this for any self-serving reason. Support your independent books. So, to Puerto Rico, this first one is based on a pilgrimage. Pilgrimage we took to the Cementerio Santa Maria Magdalena de Pazis. That's an old cemetery in Viejo San Juan to find 2 tombs. Jose Diego was a poet and a political leader called the father of the independence movement in the early 20th century. His poems used a Puerto Rican saying as an allegory for resistance to colonialism. Cada guaraguao tiene su pitirre. Yes. Every hawk has his king, like every Goliath's David. The other 2. Pedro Campos. Luis Campos was head of the Nationalist Party, revolutionary leader in the independence movement, and a political prisoner from the 1930s to the 1950s. There's a high school name for him here. There's a statue here. Well, we got to the cemetery and discovered it was infested by huge iguanas. In fact, the whole island was infested by iguanas. Parenthetically, I always love it when someone says, "Oh, you Latin Americans do that magical realism thing so well." Like, what magical realism? Iguanas in the damn cemetery. But bless their hearts. I have my metaphor for colonialism. This poem is called "The Iguana Skitters in the Cemetery by the Sea." I know. The iguanas slither on the branches of trees splintered by the hurricanes. The iguanas crawl from the cracks in the ground split by the earthquakes. The iguanas rise from brown flood waters that carry bridges to their doom. The iguanas multiply through the night of blackouts in hospitals and morgues. The iguanas burrow beneath roads to bury their eggs in the lungs of cities. The iguanas slap their clawed feet as they churn the earth farmer's field. Iguanas rip the rough skin of mango. Iguanas rip banana. Iguanas rip papaya. Iguanas skitter the cemetery by the sea, tails snapping, and they disappear between the crosses, sunning themselves on the walls, hiding in the crevices of crypts where families still cling to each other beneath the weathered stone. The iguana stares stupefied at the bust of a mustachioed poet who died after the bacteria feasted on his heart. The iguanas know nothing of Jose de Diego, his songs of the guaraguao and the piquirre, a hawk from the 2-ounce kingbird, a slash of claws to say, I'm still blind in a nest. The poet's hawk is long and dark with imperial wings. The poet's kingbird, an arrow to the neck. An iguana warms his belly on the flat stone that says, Pedro Albizu Campos. The iguanas know nothing of Albizu, the lawyer, and the cane cutter strike. The crowd listening in the rain, cane stalks in their heads igniting like torches. The iguanas learn nothing from El Maestro. The staccato tongue on the radio ground under the boots of the military governor, collapsing the courthouses and flagpole of empire. The iguanas keep vigil at the tomb, stone white as the stone of seditious conspiracy that buried him. Stone face of 30 years incarceration, subversive tongue gone to stone after the stroke. The iguanas forget the thousands in black sweeping his coffin to the edge of the sea. The green of the iguanas in the cemetery is the green of soldier uniform. The green of the iguanas in the cemetery is the green of felt at the casinos. The green of the iguanas in the cemetery is the green cash on cruise ships. The green of the iguanas in the cemetery is the green stacked in steel vaults. The green of the iguanas in the cemetery is the green of long after long hidden by gates. The green of mangoes in a bowl on every table of the absentee landlords. In the movies, on the drive-in screens, and Saturday matinees of the Cold War, iguanas played the dinosaurs. Horns glued to their snouts, thrills pasted to their heads, thrashing in close-up struggle with other iguanas over the lost world. The dead eyes of the iguanas keeping vigil over the city of the dead will never see the asteroid of their extinction, the earth melting to suck their bones into whirlpools of mud, the waves sweeping them to sea, the flight of the poet's kingbird. Thank you. I'll finish my reading with this. This is the last poem from my last book, Floaters. And this poem is called Letters to My Father. My father, Francisco Luis Espada, Frank Espada, who was born in the mountain town of Guadalajara, Puerto Rico in 1930, died in Pacific, California in 2014. Now, when Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, I saw Utlalo over and over and over on TV, in the internet, the headlines. As the journalist John Lee Anderson put it, Utlalo had become, quote, a byword for the island's devastation. And keep in mind, 4,000 people died in Puerto Rico. And so I started talking to my father, who had died 3 years before. Actually, I started talking to his ashes in a box. And that was the genesis of this last and final poem. And thank you all for listening.
Yes.
Letter to my father, October 2017. You once said, my reward for this life will be 1,000 pounds of dirt shoveled in my face. You were wrong. You are 7 mounds of ashes in a box. A Puerto Rican flag wrapped around you next to a red brick from the house in Guadalupe were all crammed together on my bookshelf. You think there is no God, no life after this life, so I know you're not watching me type this letter. When I was a boy, you were God. I watched from the 7th floor of the projects as you walked down into the street to stop a public execution. A big man caught a small man stealing his car, and every one of them heard the car alarm wail of the condemned, "He's killing me!" And a word from you. Executioner's hand slid from the hair of the thief. The kid was hot, was all he said, and he came back to us. When I was a boy, and you were God, we flew to Puerto Rico. Yet, my grandfather was the mayor of Utuado. His name was Buenaventura. That means good fortune. I believed in your grandfather's name. I heard the tree frogs chanting to each other all night. I saw banana and elephant palms sprouting from the mountain's belly. I gnawed the mango's pit and the sweet yellow hair stuck between my teeth. I said to you, you came from another planet. How'd you do it? You said, every morning, just before I woke up, I saw the mountains. Every morning, I see the mountains. And Utuado, 3 sisters, all in the 70s, all bedridden, all Pentecostales, who only left the house for church, lay sleeping on mattresses spread across the floor, when the king gutted the mountain the way a butcher slices open a dangled pig. And a rolling wall of mud buried them, leaving the 4th sister to stagger into the street, screaming like an unhated prophet about the end of the world. And Utuado, a man who cultivated a garden of aguacate and carambola, feeding the avocado and star fruit to his nieces from New York, trees in his garden beheaded all at once like the soldiers of a beaten man, and so hanged himself. And Utuado, a welder and a handyman, rigged a pulley with a shopping cart to ferry rice and beans across the river where the bridge collapsed, witnessed the cart sway above so many hands to raise a sign that told the helicopters, "Campamentos olvidados," camp of the forgotten. Los olvidados wait 7 hours in line for a government meal of Skittles and Vienna sausage, or a tarp to cover the bones of a house with no roof as the fungus grows on their skin, sleeping on mattresses drenched in the spit of the hurricane. They drink the brown water, waiting for microscopic monsters in their bellies to visit plagues upon them. A nurse says, "These people are going to have an epidemic. These people are going to die." The president flips rolls of paper towels to a crowd in a church in Guaynabo, Zeus lobbing thunderbolts on the locked wool of his delusions. Down the block, cousin Ricardo Bernice's boy says that somebody stole his can of diesel. I heard somebody ask you once if Puerto Rico needed to be free, and you said, "There's purgadas de sangre en la calle." 3 inches of blood in the street. Now, 3 inches of mud flow the streets of Wallow, and troops patrol the town, as if guarding the vein of copper in the ground, as if a shovel digging graves in the backyard might strike the ore below, as if Gala swinging machetes to clear the road might remember the uprising. I know you are not God. I have the proof. 7 pounds of ashes in a box on my bush. Gods do not die. And yet, I want you to be God again. Stride in the crowd to seize the president's arm, while the roll of paper towel sails away. Thunder Spanish obscenities in his face. Banish him to a ruthless rainstorm wallows, and he unravels one soaked sheet after another till there is nothing left but his cardboard heart. I promised myself I would stop talking to you. White box of gray grit. You were deaf even before you died. Hear my promise now. I will take you to the mountains, where houses lost like ships at sea rise blue and yellow from the mud. I will open my hands. I will scatter your ashes, and you'll follow. Thank you very much.
I'm going to say a couple of quick things to close out. I know smart people are already getting in line for the bookstore. Smart people are already getting in line. Please stay in line. Don't let me distract you. I'm going to say a couple of things. I want to thank our incredible funders who make these programs possible. The Poetry Foundation, PK's Innovation 80, Illinois Arts Council, the Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation, Seabury Foundation, Polk Brothers Foundation, Lloyd A. Frank, Albert Pick Jr. Fund, Elizabeth Morris Charitable Trust, the Field Foundation, Illinois State Board of Education, and the Rella Klebeck Foundation for Education and the Performing Arts. Huge thanks to all the volunteers who are making this happen tonight. Enormous thanks to our interpreter, Vera Marie. One more round of thanks to our event sponsors, Revolution Brewing, Luna Bay, and Nico Italian Ice. We are going to have Italian Ice distributed in the kitchen. There are broadsides for sale in the back there. Good Juneteenth to everybody tomorrow. I will see you September. I'll see you around. Let's just hang out, have drinks, have food. Please eat food. I overpused at Costco. Please eat some food. And have a good time. And we'll start the music up momentarily.